welcome to Real Life with Lisa. I'm Lisa Jacobson from Club31Women.com, and I am the wife of Matthew L. Jacobson and the mother of 8 beautiful children. So I'm very glad you were able to come over today because I wanted to talk to you about peace and that crazy peace, that kind of peace that passes all understanding, the kind of peace that just doesn't make sense, the kind of peace that you can keep and that holds you no matter what your circumstances are. And I know that kind of peace seems impossible. Maybe it seems impossible in your life circumstances, but I want to encourage you that you can walk in that kind of peace. So I don't know if you've heard me share this story before, but it's one of my favorite situations that God showed me how peace can be there no matter what is going on in your life. Because a few years ago, my husband came through the middle of the day in the middle of the room because sometimes he works at home. And he just casually mentioned that one of his authors was going to be dropping by and picking up a contract. And right away, I just remember just being, aghast that this could happen. And he looked at me like, it's no big deal. She's just going to drop by. She's going to pick up some papers. Why are you freaking out? And then I looked around my home. My home was a wreck. It was the middle of the day. We homeschool. We have a lot of kids. And I just remember looking over and there was just this thick dust on our piano right in the front room. And by the front door, there was a pile of dirty, wadded up socks because for some reason our boys have this ritual of coming into the house and tearing off their socks and shoes and leaving them in this beautiful little pile that quickly accumulates. So the thought of this author coming to my home and seeing all this absolutely mortified me. But not only was she an author and well-known, she was a best-selling author, she also happened to have been the winner of a nationally acclaimed beauty contest. So she was someone I admired greatly and very much had her life together. So I guess the thought of her seeing me in my real home and in my real life somewhat intimidated me. So my husband could see my reaction. He said, "What are you worried about?" And I just said, "Well, what is she going to think?" And he just turned to me and said, "She's going to think that we live here." And, I knew he was right. I knew he was right, but I really had a hard time getting over my fear of what this woman was going to think. So a few minutes later, she showed up and she walked in the front door and, the polite thing to do is to ask someone to sit down and if they had a few minutes. And I was really hoping, praying to God that she would say no, because she had indicated that she was in a bit of a hurry. But much to my surprise and somewhat disappointment, she said, "Oh, absolutely, I'd love to stay." So we invited her into our front room and we sat down on the couches there and we ended up actually having a very nice conversation and talked. And she's a believer and a beautiful person. And so it was very nice. And as she got up to go, we said our goodbyes and our thank yous and all that. And then she was almost out the door and then she stopped and she turned around and she said, "I've been wanting to say something to you. And there's just something about," and this is where my heart dropped and I thought, I know what she's going to say. And I just did a quick prayer. "Lord, help me be humble. Help me to receive this criticism." And, I forgot to mention you. I think somewhere even in the goodbyes, our boys were rollerblading through the house. They had been doing the kitchen dishes and they were racing around the island. And somehow, because we have hardwood floors, they'd come all the way into the living room where we were and back around. And I don't know if this woman was used to seeing boys rollerblading through, the middle of the living room. So there was definitely a lot of chaos and noise and piles of dirty socks. So anyway, so there she was, and she was gathering her thoughts on how she was going to say what she was going to say. And I just held my breath, and she said, "Whenever I come to your home, there's just a sense of peace here. And I always feel just a calmness in my soul when I come in the door." And my husband flashed me this look like, "See, told you so." And those were some of the most wonderful, encouraging words I could hear And I thought it was amazing, that she didn't notice all those other things that were so loud to me. And later, as my husband and I were talking about why did she sense peace in our home when there were boys rollerblading through the house, when there were dirty socks, there's dust, what could have communicated peace to her? And, he said, I think peace in your home comes from peace in your heart. And when you have peace in your heart, people sense that. They can't even put their finger on it, but they know that. And I thought that was very helpful insight to know that that's the kind of peace that I want to have in my home. And that's kind of peace starts in my heart. And I don't know about you, but I'm guessing that you also want to have a peaceful home and a peaceful heart. And if you're not married, or if you don't have children, or it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, right? You still want to have that kind of peace that no matter who's rollerblading through your home, they sense that peace. So let's talk about how to have that kind of peace. Okay, if you know me, then I'm going to turn to the Word, right? That's where I like to get my instruction for life and for peace. So the first thing to do is to take it to the Lord in prayer, because His Word says in Philippians 4:6-7, it says, now you might be familiar with these verses, but just pretend like you're hearing it for the first time, if you are, okay? Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, requests, just asking, with thanksgiving, being thankful. We'll talk about that some other day. Remember that. Let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, which beats everything, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:6-7. So the first thing to do, take your day, take your burdens, take your dirty socks, well, figuratively speaking, and lay them before the Lord. And that peace is going to guard your heart and mind. And speaking of mind, this is going to bring us to the second one, and that is to fix your thoughts on Him. And I think sometimes we're, like in my situation, I'm so busy looking down at the dirty socks or looking down at the mess around me. And, right now we're talking about house, like literal things, but this applies every bit, if not more, to relational messes or health messes or financial messes. Okay, so we're only using this as a figurative, you can picture it sort of example, but it very much applies to any life circumstances that you find yourself challenged by. So fix your thoughts on Him, looking up and not down at the dirty socks. You keep Him in perfect peace. Perfect peace. Can you imagine that? Peace that's not at the least bit shaky or troubled, whose mind is stayed on you because He trusts in you. Isaiah 26:3. You keep Him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed or fixed on you because He trusts in you. So the first thing, take it to the Lord in prayer. Put it all before Him. Secondly, don't just keep your eyes looking down at the mess. Look up at God Himself, and remember that's where our eyes are supposed to be. That's where our thoughts are supposed to be dwelling on. All right. Now, thirdly, remember how the story ends. So, when I was a young girl, I read a lot. I loved reading, and sometimes the story was so exciting or so distressing that I couldn't help myself. Now, don't judge me, but I would read the last chapter just because I just knew I couldn't read another page until I knew how the story ended. And I could get through anything else that happened in the book if I just knew that in the end, the couple, the guy and the girl got together, or that, the young baby lived, or whatever it was that I was just, on my edge of my seat for. So this is one thing that my husband often reminds me. He'll turn to me in the circumstances that I'm anxious about or troubled about, and he'll remind me, Lisa, we know how the story ends. We know the last chapter. And in John 16:33, Jesus Himself, these are His words. This is what He reminds us. He says, I have said these things to you that in me you may have peace. That kind of peace we're talking about. In the world you will have tribulation, So he's not saying you're not going to have any troubles and life's going to be peachy, right? He's saying, yeah, you're going to have a lot of challenges, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And I think we just need to remember how the story ends, that he has overcome the world and he is the overcomer. And so no matter what I'm facing today, we know what the end is going to be. So I hope these things encourage you. I hope that if you have been wanting peace or struggling with peace, that you don't get discouraged and just get overwhelmed with the dirty socks in your life, but that you will take it to the Lord in prayer, that you will fix your mind on him, and that you'll remember how the story ends. It's got a good ending. All right, let me close with this blessing. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times, in every way. The Lord be with you all. That's from 2 Thessalonians 3:16. So thank you for coming over today. And I'm really glad that you were able to join me. And I'm hoping that if you would leave a comment in the section below and just share a little bit about what's on your heart and mind. I think you'll find we have a beautiful and very supportive community here at Club 31 Women. People enjoy praying for each other, and it's a place to come that you can also share your testimony of peace or even just ask for prayer. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to Club 31 Women, it's easy to do, and all you have to do is share your email address, and in exchange, what you'll get is several encouraging and inspiring articles delivered straight to your inbox every week. I promise not to spam you. And in addition, I also, as a thank you gift, I offer 2 free ebooks, one on marriage, one on parenting, and then there's a lovely print that's been calligraphied that you're welcome to print out, and it's beautiful enough to frame on your wall. Oh, one more thing. If you're interested in the scriptures that I've mentioned today, I've put them together on a free printable. They're downloadable. It's just in the link below. There's instructions, and it's yours to print out on your home computer, and you can put them all over your home. You can take them to work with you. You can put them in your purse. And just a little reminder of what God says about the kind of peace that reigns in your heart. So thank you for joining me here and sharing real life together. God bless.